Why do small to medium-sized businesses require a BCDR plan as much, if not more, than enterprise-level businesses?
It's wrong to think that small businesses cannot be targets for cyber criminals. In fact, it's a very fertile area. Breaking into enterprise systems and enterprises and their computer systems is actually quite difficult, whereas small businesses are seen as softer targets. Therefore, it is important that small businesses do invest properly in a business continuity solution and disaster recovery solution. Now, a good business continuity solution will allow you very quickly to go back to a point in time before you got attacked, and you will be able to be back in business in a very short space of time. Compared to the cost of being hacked and the ransom having to be paid if you do that at all, investing in a proper business continuity solution is relatively cheap.
BCDR plan is really important for small to medium-sized businesses. It's not just enterprises that need that recoverability capability. It's not just large enterprises that are susceptible to natural disasters, fires, floods, thefts, or cyber attacks. These are all very much factors that can impact a small to medium-sized business. You may think that enterprise are the only people that are going to get hit by a cyber attack. That's not true. Small to medium-sized businesses are actually a really attractive target for cyber criminals because typically they don't invest in the security infrastructure that's required to keep them safe.
With more workers returning to the office, what BCDR practices need to change with them?
So BCDR practices will evolve. We went from everyone being in the office within the corporate network, within the corporate environment, where there was very well developed and tested systems which kept the business safe. Whereas we suddenly, on March the 23rd last year, all had to move to working from home, and that presented its own set of problems. A lot of people were suddenly outside of the corporate network, and a lot of effort has been put into making sure that that is as safe as it possibly can be, though it's not perfect by any means. So as we move forward, I think we're going to see an evolution to this hybrid method of working, where there'll be people working from the office so many days a week, from home so many days a week. And what we need to do is ensure that the transportability of work between those two locations is as easy as possible, but also as safe as possible, that we provide the same level of protection working away from the office as within the office.
Is downtime the biggest threat to businesses?
Downtime is a big threat to your business, to our business, to everybody's business. As we start continuing through this pandemic and how it changes things for us, we really need to consider what are those driving factors that can cause us to have downtime. We talk about things like natural disasters, floods, thefts, malicious acts, whether they be cyber attacks or people accidentally deleting data from the systems. They're all real and very present threats to the business's continuity and can thus incur downtime.
Of course, I suspect that everybody has suffered some downtime of their business through their business systems in the past few years. You'll occasionally, the power will go out, for instance. Occasionally, the utilities will come and dig up the cables to your business, whether it's the communication lines or the power outage. And that can be a great impact, even a few hours worth of loss of time, but it's recoverable quickly. However, in the event of a cyber attack, you could be without your systems with a traditional backup system for potentially days. How long is it before it becomes irrecoverable? At what point do you have to start saying, well, we can't do that business that we were going to do on day one and day two. We just need to get back into business. But imagine trying to run your business not only without systems, but also with this distributed workforce who might not be able to log into the systems anymore. So making sure that you can be up and running within minutes or hours is going to be absolutely critical going forward, because any business that suffers an outage 4 days may actually never recover at all.
And when we think about the duration of downtime, how does an hour's worth of downtime differ from a day's worth of downtime or a week's worth of downtime? That's very much an individual thing to each and every business. Some organisations can tolerate an hour's worth of downtime. Some may even be able to tolerate a day's worth of downtime, but your business may not. And it's really quite a personal thing. So it's really difficult to give some indication as to how much downtime is tolerable for each and every business. Everybody says they don't want any. And quite often, and I hear this very often, is that businesses will say to me, oh, we can tolerate a day's worth of downtime. It's fine. We'll go back to pen and paper. The reality is that not many businesses are like that these days. People rely on their computer systems, even if it's just for communication, even if they can, ship goods out of the door with pen and paper and sticky labels. They still rely on those telephone systems to speak to their customers and suppliers, email for orders, all of these things. And when they're not available, it can be really quite devastating.
What is disaster recovery as a service, and how can Neuways help your business?
It's worthwhile just galloping through disaster recovery and how it's evolved over the years. A long time ago, there was no disaster recovery at all. You had a computer and a system, and you relied on it. And when it went wrong, it was a big problem to you. Then people got the idea of doing backups locally onto tape or onto disk, and that relied on you each night changing that tape or disk so the backup could be done. And the companies who did that right took those copies off site as well, just in case there was a disaster of some sort in terms of fire or flood or not being able to access the premises. And the evolution has been quite rapid, and a lot of it's relied on good communication. So now it is absolutely possible to do a backup locally and then a backup to the cloud. And also the pricing model has changed, which is also very useful. It makes it actually more affordable. To get a good disaster recovery and backup solution a few years ago, there was actually quite a large capital cost, which you would have to write off over a period of time. Whereas now it becomes an operating cost, an OPEX cost, which means that straight away you can have a high quality backup solution working for you, giving you 3 sets of data to recover from in diverse places, which means your chances of recovery are much, much higher. And the value of that to a business and not having to invest large amounts of money up front and project costs as well is a great thing for businesses now. So disaster recovery as a service means that you don't have to do that huge investment up front. You can be backing up your systems in the best way possible very quickly and just paying a monthly fee.
How does the regular testing of backed up data help a business recover from disaster?
So one of the key elements of a successful BCDR plan is testing. Because let's face it, until we come to use it in anger, we don't know if it's going to work. And that's why it's really important, because the last time you want to find out your backups haven't been doing anything is when you come to use them. Now, I've seen businesses that rely on the email reports from the software to say 100% success, 100% success. And when it comes to the crunch, they don't give them back what they need. And that's because they haven't tested. They've taken the reports at face value, and that has then left them exposed. They've had a false sense of security. Now, our solution doesn't do that. First of all, we test each backup 3 times a day to prove that actually we can spin up from it and that we can actually restore from it. Additionally, as part of our DR as a service platform, we will work with you to understand what your testing regime should be. Do you want to do a DR test every year, every 6 months, or some other time frame? But we can work with you on that and really give you that confidence that if the worst does happen, we've got a tried and tested plan in place.
How does Neuways' partnership with Datto help deliver the best BCDR solutions for businesses?
So the foundation of our BCDR platform is from a company called Datto, and they provide a best-in-class business continuity and recovery solution, specifically for MSPs such as ourselves to work with. And This really gives us the confidence that we can deliver on the claims that we make. How does the Datto solution help us deliver? Some of the things that will really, really help your organisation, both in a disaster and in the testing phases, are features such as screenshot verification. This gives us the ability to instate a particular backup point to verify that actually it's working and the system that we've backed up will boot okay. Really, really useful. It's a really great way of validating that actually the backup is worth something, and we know that that's a really important feature. They implement a ransomware detection process on each backup point. So they look for the telltale signs of ransomware. Really, really important, because what you don't want to do is find out that if you do have a ransomware attack and have to restore your data, that all your data is already encrypted. That's no use to anybody then. So again, it's this check and balance that's there to make sure that we can recover your data when we need to. In addition to that, the Datto solution sends the data off site. So if you have a major disaster, a fire or a flood or something like that, all of your backup points are also stored off site. They're not just on this appliance that's in your office. So we're preventing data loss from a catastrophic total loss event. It's really cool technology. It's in Datto's own cloud. They don't feed that out to Amazon or Microsoft. It's their own cloud. They own the technology end to end. Again, giving you that reassurance that it's a completely proven system, top to bottom. They don't rely on anybody else to provide that infrastructure. They take responsibility for that themselves. These offsite points, as you probably guessed, can also be spun up from in the event of a disaster. So we have a fire or a flood, we lose our main server on premise, we lose our backup appliance, we can spin up in the Datto cloud and we can get everybody back up and running. So if we need to, regardless of location, we can spin up in a consistent way and know that we can get that data back with a minimal amount of data loss. If you're running cloud services, we have a solution there too. If you're Office 365, for example, we know that data is your responsibility. It's part of Microsoft's shared responsibility model. It's basically on you to make sure that if that data is lost, you can get it back. Microsoft have some capability within their platform to recover data, but in honesty, I wouldn't want to rely on it, and I don't think you should either. Which is where third parties step in. Datto have a great 365 backup solution. Again, it's using the same Datto cloud to back up that data to, and it means that we can recover email data, OneDrive data, Teams data, SharePoint data from multiple backup points during the day.
Martin, as a business owner yourself, can you explain how important it is for businesses to reduce and keep downtime to a minimum?
Quite obviously, downtime is unwelcome. Now, if that downtime is because of circumstances that were entirely beyond your control, and by control, I mean you weren't able to plan for it, then that's fine. And in terms of your customers' perceptions of you and your suppliers' perceptions of you, it's acceptable. Having a power cut, that's to be expected sometimes. Having communications outages is to be expected sometimes. We can plan for that. But we know that generally in those circumstances, we will be back up and running within hours. In my lifetime as a managing director, I think the worst outage we've had is a communications facility up in the northwest of England, which was out for about 4 days, but was routed round, but still caused problems to businesses that we know. Compare that to not being able to operate at all because you simply don't have your systems available for your people to use and for your customers to interact with if you're online, for instance. Then the impact of that is entirely, almost insurmountable. It's the problem is that it was in your control. You could have planned for it, and by not investing in the right business continuity solution, you've displayed some lack of planning and foresight. It's to move from a traditional tape-based backup system to a modern system is actually not a big deal. It's not expensive. It's particularly with the disaster recovery as a service now, you can have a world-class backup system working today.
And Toby, from a business expert's perspective, how important is it for businesses to reduce downtime?
keeping downtime to a minimum is absolutely critical for all businesses. And in the work that I do with companies such as yourselves, I've seen all sorts. One of the key aspects is that backup and recovery isn't really seen as a very exciting way of spending your money. And actually, it really is. It really is a really critical part of your overall IT plan. It's a critical element of your cybersecurity strategy, because that is what you're going to rely on when all of the other things that you've bought don't stop the bad guys. That's what you use to recover everything back. I think the other area that is really important to consider as well, and we touched on it earlier, is what that downtime actually means. So if we have an outage and we're relying on replacement parts, how quickly are these things going to arrive? Now, we all know that we can have warranties with the server manufacturers and get the things in 4 hours, 8 hours next business day. Is that acceptable? And the knock-on effects of all of that stuff, is that acceptable to your business? That's a decision that you need to make yourselves. I think the other thing that we see is where customers have a total loss event is actually how long is it going to take to replace that stuff? So in a traditional world where you don't have a Datto device and you don't use DR as a service from ourselves, then you can be in a position where you lose your server and you have to replace it. And mostly servers are not off-the-shelf items. You can't go down to the local server shop and buy one and bring it home with you. They are normally built to order. So you're going to be looking at several days, maybe even longer in the current pandemic situation before you're going to get that hardware fulfilled. So that downtime might translate from being 1 day to being a week or 2 weeks or even longer. We're considering the fact that then if we've had a total loss event and actually the office building is not safe to enter, it can't be occupied, depending on the nature of the problem, if there's been flooding, then there could be all sorts of rewiring that's required, or at the very least needs days to dry out. If there's been a fire, who knows what the state of the building's in. Even if you get that server, is the building ready for you to run it from? And if not, where are you going to run it from? So these are all things that come out of that BCDR plan, just thinking about these worst case scenarios and how you're going to deal with them. Now, the great thing about the solution that we offer is that actually a lot of these decisions, whilst important, we mitigate the impact of a lot of these things. We can spin up in the cloud. That gives your employees the ability to access the systems from any location. We can create VPN connections or other secure remote access so they can get in and use the systems. And whilst that doesn't negate the need for having that BCDR plan, it becomes a part of it because you're mitigating the impact of that total loss event. I think that's really a key point. It's mitigation. It's how are you going to limit the impact of these things that happen, because they're going to happen and they're going to cause pain, and we shouldn't be under any illusion about that. And to make it so that they're seamless and invisible is prohibitively expensive. So what we're looking for is the next best thing. What gives us the minimal amount of downtime with the minimal amount of data loss? And I think that's a more pragmatic approach for small to medium-sized businesses like yours to take.
What are Neuways is free resources to help businesses discover more about business continuity and disaster recovery.
So with everything we've spoken about today, it may seem a little daunting. Where do I begin? How do I start? How do I begin to protect my business? You may have already recognised that actually, from what we spoke about already, that there are areas of improvement that you could make.
And we've got some tools in our tool set which will help you without any commitment, without having to invest any money, to see what the impact on your business could be. So we do have a disaster recovery time calculator, which will give you some indication of the cost it will be to your business for each hour of downtime. And we also have a report, which is, again, entirely free and can be delivered online, which will tell you about your readiness for business continuity, planning and disaster recovery. It's a good signpost for what you should do. And of course, we love talking about disaster recovery and business continuity planning. It's what we do. And I particularly enjoy talking to people about it because I know it protects the business. And as a businessman myself, who's faced challenges in the past, we're here to help. And whilst you might not end up working with us, if you've got a business continuity plan and a disaster recovery solution in place, then I will take some satisfaction in knowing that we've contributed to you having a better business.
Thank you for attending this webinar today. I hope you found it useful. If you do need any more information, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. You can give us a call, contact us through email or through our website, and we'd be more than happy, we'd be delighted to talk to you about your BCDR and disaster recovery needs.